Yorkshire's best music mix. 96.3 Radio Aire FM.
Radio Aire FM, the best.
Radio Aire FM. Sarah Griffiths, Nick Babb, Neil Rudd, Mike Toulon on Radio Aire FM. Paul Stead on Radio Aire FM.
Radio Aire FM, the best. Radio Aire FM.
West Yorkshire's Top 20 on 96.3 Radio Aire FM. The stars and their stories on the Hotline on Radio Aire FM. Hotline News Break on Radio Aire FM. The CD Test Drive. Try it before you buy it on Radio Aire FM. The Saturday Hotline with Mike Toulon on Radio Aire FM. Yorkshire's Best Rock with Colin Slade on Radio Aire FM. Night Flight. The Early Breakfast Show. Love Bites with Sarah Griffiths on Radio Aire FM. Sweet Nothings with Sarah Griffiths on Radio Aire FM. The Sudden Death Trivia Quiz on Yorkshire's Best. Radio Aire FM.
Radio Aire FM. Radio Aire FM.
Sunday's Classic Album on Yorkshire's Best. Radio Aire FM. Lazy Sunday Afternoon on Radio Aire FM. Classic Hit Sunday from 6 every Sunday. 10 hours of classic hits on Radio Aire FM.
Yorkshire's best. Radio Aire FM.
3 of the best on Yorkshire's Best. Radio Aire FM. A Stab in the Dark. Name it and win. A musical miscarriage of justice with Paul Conroy on Radio Aire FM. Paul Conroy's Scratchy Bits on Radio Aire FM. Paul Conroy's Power Play on Radio Aire FM.
Yorkshire's best. Radio Aire FM. Radio Aire FM.
The Midnight Love Affair. Non-stop love songs on 96.3 Radio Aire FM. The Missing Bit on Radio Aire FM. With the man with bits missing, Richard James. The 1045 game with Richard James. Win the top 1045s from Virgin Records every Sunday at 1045 on Radio Aire FM. Yorkshire's best new music on Radio Aire FM. Crime Stoppers on Yorkshire's Best. Radio Aire FM. The Video Review on Radio Aire FM with Panasonic for the best in video. Dave Simon's Tricky Trio on 96.3 Radio Aire FM. The Originals with Dave Simons on Radio Aire FM. Yorkshire's best music mix. 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Yorkshire's Best. Radio Aire FM. Yorkshire's Best Concert Guide on 96.3 Radio Aire FM. The Entertainment Update on Yorkshire's Best. Radio Aire FM. Yorkshire's Best News and Information. 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Yorkshire's Best Prizes on 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Britain's Best Breakfast Show with Mark Page on Yorkshire's Best. Radio Aire FM. Richard James on Radio Aire FM. It's a laid-back lunchtime on 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Dave Simons on Radio Aire FM. Chart Attack. Yorkshire's Best 20 non-stop. Chart Attack on 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Carl Kingston on Radio Aire FM. Paul Conroy on Radio Aire FM. Countdown to Christmas on 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Merry Christmas from 96.3 Radio Aire FM. A Happy New Year from Radio Aire FM. Yorkshire's best summer music on 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Yorkshire's best holiday music on Radio Aire FM. Breakfast Bids on 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Film Festival Update on Yorkshire's best Radio Aire FM. First Words with Mark Page on Radio Aire FM. Wake up to Yorkshire's best. Mark Page on Radio Aire FM. Total Recall with Richard James on Radio Aire FM. The Wrong Answer Game with Richard James, where it's smart to get the answers wrong. Moments in Love on Radio Aire FM. Call Yorkshire's best on 0532 344 963. Pop News It, the Cryptic News Game with Richard James. The 60s Time Capsule on Radio Aire FM. The Dance Zone on Radio Aire FM. Fresh new cuts and classics with Carl Kingston.
Radio Aire FM.
The Bacardi Beat Dance Chart. Yorkshire's best floor fillers on Radio Aire FM with Carl Kingston. Carl Kingston's Wicked Mix on 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Yorkshire's CD Chart with Carl Kingston on Radio Aire FM. Yorkshire's best evening music with Carl Kingston on Radio Aire FM.
Yorkshire's best Radio Aire FM.
Simon Hurst on Radio Aire FM. Digital stereo. 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Continuous music. More of your favorites back to back. 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Another Radio Aire FM classic. Radio Aire FM playing more continuous music in clutter-free FM stereo. Radio Aire FM playing more continuous music. Continuous music. More of your favorites back to back. 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Radio Aire FM playing more continuous music in clutter-free FM stereo. For a great breakfast show, look no further. Richard James is here, weekday mornings on Radio Aire FM. For a better drive, set your controls to 96.3 Radio Aire FM.
Radio Aire FM.
Last thing at night after a hard day, relax with the Quiet Storm on Radio Aire FM. For great memories and 10 hits in a row, don't miss the Top 10 at 10 with Derek Corcoran on Radio Aire FM.
Radio Aire FM.
Yorkshire's best music mix is the station network that everyone can agree on. 96.3 Radio Aire FM. Whether you work with 2 or 200, we're working harder to make your day's work easier. Radio Aire FM.
Radio Aire FM.
Live from Leeds on 96.3, this is Yorkshire's best music mix. Radio Aire FM.